The Eastern Michigan Eagles are a team entering 2023 that can look to explode this season. They're coming off some very, very good years. Chris Creighton is building a Mid American Conference contender. It all takes is just 1 year to really explode. And there are a lot of very nice pieces on this Eastern Michigan team that are going to have them ready and very well off to compete in the Mid American Conference this season. So is this the year where Chris Creighton's group makes a big jump and maybe Eastern Michigan is competing for a Mid-American Conference championship at the end of the season? Or am I going to be wrong about that? And this is a Eastern Michigan Eagle team that starts to lose the feathers on its wings and start to die out. What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm previewing, predicting, analyzing, whatever you'd like to call it, all 133 FBS teams this college football summer. I was going to say off season, but this summer, guys, I'm doing your favorite team. I have one for almost every team up, just the Mid-American Conference, Conference USA left. Again, make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, so you know when videos get uploaded, not only for predictions, but before the season and during the season as well. But there are more ways to help me support my channel. Watching the video, of course, what you're doing right now is liking, commenting, sharing, and much else you can do to help support my channel. But enough about me. Let's talk about the Eagles here in 2023. How do we do things around here? We are going to go through a roster overview and look at who the team lost, who's coming back, and who's coming in through the transfer portal and recruiting class, as well as taking a look at the 2023 Eagle football schedule, and we'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. So without further ado, let's talk about the Eastern Michigan Eagles here in 2023. The quarterback room is going to be looking slightly different this year, as you do lose your primary guy from last season in Taylor Powell, 2,111 yards, 16 touchdowns and 8 interceptions on 64 and a little over a 0.5% completion percentage. So it's going to be Austin Smith at the quarterback position this season. Did have 119 pass attempts last year, threw for 774 yards, 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, while completing an average of 6.5 yards per pass with 57% completion percentage. Just by the way, when you take a look at that completion percentage number, or actually I should say the yards per pass number, it is over, I should say, a full yard lower than Taylor Powell. So for Austin Smith, yeah, there are steps that are going to be taken to improve his game, but I think he's a very solid option at quarterback for Eastern Michigan, and I think the Eagles should be rearing, ready to go. I think Austin Smith will play some pretty solid football for the Eagles this season. But let's talk about the running back room. You are going to lose a depth piece in this running back room from seasons prior, and that is Darius Boone. Only 92 carries, but 3 touchdowns for him last season. However, one of the best running backs in the Mid-American Conference is going to be coming back to this team. That is Samson Evans, 1,166 yards and 15 touchdowns for the Eagles last season. He's a very dynamic option, will be again in 2023. Your second leading rusher in Jalen Jackson also comes back. Oh, and here's another upside of Austin Smith. Was the team's third leading rusher last season. So definitely a dual threat type quarterback, can really do it all. But back to the running back room, you got one of, if not the best running backs in the entire Mid-American Conference, and Samson Evans should be a really good option for the Eagles this year. Some nice depth in that position room as well. Now the wide receiver room. This is where things start to get interesting, because you do lose your second, third, and fourth leading receivers from last year, and they were all over 450 yards. Dylan Drummond was your second leading receiver, 525 yards, 3 touchdowns. Hassan Beydoun, 473 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Lassiter, 471 yards and 4 touchdowns. All of them key parts to this passing attack that are all going to be gone. But notice I said second, third, and fourth, which means your leading receiver does come back. Last year, that was Tanner New. If I'm saying that last name wrong, please correct me. But 632 yards, 9 touchdowns on 45 catches. Did not lead the team in catches, but did lead the team in yards and touchdowns. Yards by about just a little over 100, and more than doubled anyone else's touchdown production last year. But there are a couple guys that waited in the wings last year that are going to have to take some steps up for this Eastern Michigan team, as again, as far as what's on the field, a lot of unknown in the wide receiver room. J.B. Mitchell, Caden Keefe are coming back. Meanwhile, you do get some transfers coming in. Who knows what kind of role they're going to play, but Terry Lockett and Javon Swinton are both over from Big Ten programs. Swinton from Indiana and Lockett from Michigan State. When you take a look at the tight end room, some more pass catchers. Gunnar Oaks is gone, was your leading receiver among tight ends last year. Did have a lot of catches as well, but Andreas Pass and Jerry Getzlinger, both of them will be coming back to this Eastern Michigan team this season. Let's take a look at the offensive line. A big loss in Marcellus Johnson. He's off to, I believe, a Power 5 program. But Dimitri Douglas, Alex Howie, Brian Dooley back on the offensive line. I'm a little behind the time I want to, so we're going to skip ahead to the defense. It should be a pretty solid offense for the Eagles this year. But talking about the defense this year, what are we going to look forward to from the Eagles' defensive side? Well, you do lose a couple pretty key guys on the defensive line, as Jordan Crawford, who is your leading tackler among defensive linemen, 35 tackles, sack and a half is gone. Grant Truman had 3 sacks last season. He'll also be gone off the team. But your second leading tackler on the defensive line was Peyton Price. He'll be coming back, as well as quite a bit of depth coming back for this Eagle team. Melvin Swindle, Makai Coleman, and Tim Grant Randall are all going to be returners for this Eagle program. Let's take a look at the linebacking room. Well, there is going to be some pretty substantial losses here. Most notably is Jose Ramirez. No, don't get him confused with the Cleveland Guardians third baseman. That's kind of why I'm wearing Cleveland for this video. A little weird coincidence there. But no, Jose Ramirez led the team in sacks last season. 12 sacks, 65 tackles, was also good for third on the team. Did have a couple pass breakups in there as well, but he was a very key player that the Eagles will be missing dearly. Tariq Spates, Steven Sheet are also going to be gone off of this team. But when you take a look at who comes back, well, your top 2 tacklers do come back. I actually mixed up their order here. So Chase Klein was the leading tackler, 91 tackles, 3 passes defended. And then Joe Spiraccio was the second leading tackler, 89 tackles, a sack, and an interception last season. You're also going to be returning Justin Jefferson to this linebacking room as well. So, hey, some pretty solid players that are going to be coming back for the Eagles in the linebacking room. And then when you take a look at the defensive back room, Mark Lee, Brandon Benson, and Russell Vaden are all going to be gone off of this team. But good news, a lot of your leaders a lot of your leaders in the secondary do come back. Joshua Scott, really good player. 10 passes defended, 3 interceptions last season. You also get Kempton Shineback, was second on the team with 12 passes, or I should say led the team with 12 passes defended. Scott was second on the team with those 10 passes defended there. TJ Peavy was your leading tackler among guys in the secondary. He comes back. Other guys like Cam Smith and Quintavious Scandrett will return as well. As mentioned before, your head coach is Chris Creighton. Offensive coordinator is Mike Piatkowski. And your defensive coordinator is Ben Needham. As now we'll take a look at the Eagle football schedule for 2023. Hey, any game at home is going to be underlined, while any game on the road will be in italics or the slanted text. Any game you see in green is a game I think the Eagles are going to win easily. Any game in yellow is going to be a back and forth 50-50 type game, but the Eagles will still be able to win, and red is a loss. Should get an easy win to start out the year against the Howard Bison. Don't really need any further explanation on that one, but I do not think you're going to have much luck there in week 2 against the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Yes, it's a team that lost a lot of physicality, and Eastern Michigan is returning some pretty solid weapons that could provide Minnesota some headache here in some certain aspects. However, Minnesota, I really like Anthony Kaliakmanis at quarterback. If he pans out, I think he could be really good. Minnesota's still going to have a really good defense there as well. I just see Eastern Michigan end up dropping that game to Minnesota on the road in week 2. Should be able to come back home and beat UMass. Now, you cannot overlook UMass this year. Make no mistake, that's a UMass team that's going to be much improved here in 2023. They've added a lot of Power 5 transfers, a lot of former 3, and even some former 4 stars coming out of high school. It's going to be a much improved team, but there's just still too much talent on this Eastern Michigan roster. UMass will be losing that game. Now, on the road at Jacksonville State is an interesting one. This is a new program to the FBS ranks. They have joined Conference USA, which again, we're going to cover once we get all of the Mid-American Conference done. But back to talking about Jacksonville State. That's going to be a very interesting team this year. Again, James Madison last year made the transition from FCS to FBS, made it seem like nothing. I don't think Jackson State and their counterpart Sam Houston, of course they're not on the schedule, we're focusing on Jacksonville State. I just don't think they're going to end up having a lot of luck. I think it is going to take some time for both of those guys, for both of those teams, especially Jacksonville State, to adjust to that level. Was a pretty solid team out of the FCS ranks, but I think Eastern Michigan, while Jacksonville State's going to be able to bring some toughness and is going to be able to hang around in this game, I think Eastern Michigan just going to be a little bit too much, and Jacksonville State is going to go down. So Eastern Michigan starting out 3-1 through non-conference play. You get into conference play on the road against Central Michigan, more than a winnable game. The Chippewas really struggled last season, and it might not get a whole lot better this year. Daniel Richardson, I believe, was that quarterback there, and he has gone out through the portal. A lot of other very, very talented players are going to be leaving that roster as well. So I do see that as a win. While I think the Chippewas could put up a fight, the Eagles will go on the road and win that game. You get to come back home in week 6 and you play a game against Ball State, a game that I also think Ball State, they can be competitive this year. They can really give it to the Eagles here in this game, but I do think the Eagles will just be a little bit too much, and they're going to be able to win that game against Ball State. You come out, stay at home, week 7 on the gray turf field against Kent State. And the Golden Flashes, I think, are really going to struggle this year. That definitely could be the worst team. And I don't mean to hate on my Golden Flash, Golden Flash fans out there, but that's definitely a team that could see a lot of struggle this year. Pretty much everyone has gone off that team, either through the transfer portal, graduation, or by some other means. But Kent State's going to be a program that is really, really going to struggle here in 2023. I think that'll be an easy win. Too much firepower on this Eastern Michigan offense. The defense will hold up its end of the bargain as well. So I do have the Golden Flashes losing that game. But you do have a lot of pretty tough games here on this back 5-game stretch for the Eastern Michigan Eagles, with one mixed in that we'll talk about when we get there. I'm pretty sure you college football fans already know which one I'm talking about. But you got to go on the road to play the Northern Illinois Huskies. And this is going to be a team that's going to be really interesting to watch this year. Rocky Lombardi is coming back at quarterback. They've also got a really good running back room there. Your star wide receiver who was out last year, the name is escaping my mind, Trayvon Rudolph, I believe is that name now that I've thought about it. He's going to be coming back for this season, should play a key part. There are some pretty solid returning pieces on the defensive side of the ball for Northern Illinois as well. So I think defensively, they're going to be able to slow down the Eastern Michigan Eagles. And with all that returning production on the offensive end, some really, really good players, I think they're going to be able to take it to this Eastern Michigan defense as well. So I do have the Northern Illinois Huskies with the Eagles going on the road. I do think the Huskies are going to end up winning that game. And hey, look, it's only your second loss, not a big deal. You get to come back home, give it a little bit of a shot at some redemption here against Western Michigan. And I think this one's going to be tough for you as well. Again, I see Western Michigan still, even with all they lost in the transfer portal, being a pretty solid, fairly competitive team in the Mid-American Conference this season. Now, they might not do anything crazy like compete for a Mid-American Conference championship, but Western Michigan is still going to make life pretty tough on some teams within this conference. They're going to make life tough for Eastern Michigan here, but again, I do see Eastern Michigan being able to pull it out, though, there as that game is at home. They'll have the home crowd behind them, and they are going to be able to get that win there. So then you get your bye week, a perfectly timed bye week, in my opinion, as you got to go on the road against the best team, in my opinion, in the Mid-American Conference. They won the conference last year. They're the favorites to do it again this year. There's a lot returning to the Toledo Rockets. You got to go on the road, play that game in the Glass Bowl on a weekday game, weekday maction, if you will. That's just going to be a really hard game for Eastern Michigan to win. Not a lot of people are going to be able to slow down this Toledo offense that returns DeQuan Finn. A lot of weapons in the running back room, in the wide receiver room. Got a pretty good offensive line there as well. And defensively, again, lots of returning production. There are going to be pretty few offenses that are going to be able to get through that defense as well. Toledo just all around a very solid team. That's going to be a hard game for Eastern Michigan to win, and I do think they end up dropping that game there as well. This should be no surprise here. This was the game that I talked about in this 5-game stretch that might be a little bit of a layoff for Eastern Michigan. Again, Akron, while they might not be the worst team in the Mid-American Conference this year, I do still see them struggling here in 2023, so that will be a win for the Eagles. Then you got to go on the road for your final game of the year and play the Buffalo Bulls. Even though there are a lot of names leaving that defense, what returns is some really, really solid talent. I think it's going to be a very physical, tough defense to play against. There are a lot of great returning options on that offense as well for this Buffalo Bull team. I just see Eastern Michigan maybe struggling to keep up with the Bulls' defense. Now, this could be, again, very competitive, back and forth game. I think it's going to be a very, very fun game to watch. but I do think the Eagles are going to end up falling here in this one, which leads me to a record of 8-4 for the Eastern Michigan Eagles, which again is still a very, very good season. I think they possibly could get to 9-3, maybe even 10-2. I don't quite see that. You got a lot of tricky road games that you have to travel through, but this still should be a really good year for Chris Creighton's group. That's going to do it for my thoughts on the Eagles. Let me know yours in the comment section below. And as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.